This is the iPhone 16 Pro. It looks good. Want to see more? Did you see that? Did you see that? Yeah, 4K, 120 hertz, directly from this phone. Didn't even change anything. That's straight from the camera. That is incredible. And you know we're gonna talk all about that. But you know what? This is the review for the new 16 Pro and the 16 Pro Max. And when I look at it, I'm gonna tell you, I've been joking around. I keep on calling it the iPhone 12 SS. And yes, the design looks a lot the same, but there's a whole lot going on under the hood that you need to pay attention to. Now, I don't want to beat you over the head with this, but I literally lined up all the iPhones since the 12 Pro, 13 Pro, 14 Pro, 15 Pro, and 16 Pro, just so you could all see what the change has been like. And you know what? We're going to get past that because I see so many of you in the comments just continue to be like, nothing's changed. Look, things have changed, all right? 6.3 inch for the Pro, 6.9 inch for the Pro Max, and yes, they're a little taller. They are a little bigger in size. The biggest change here, the new desert titanium color. When I look at it, I mean, when you look at it, it basically replaces that gold slot, but it's slightly warmer on the actual frame, a little bit on the backing, but at first glance, it's not going to make that much of a difference. Hey, if gold is your color, desert titanium is going to be your color, or you're just going to buy it because the new. But I think we've said this over and over. Look, Apple, if you're listening, you're watching, pros like colors too. Give us a little pop. I think it'll help you out in the long run. Now, arguably the biggest improvement here that you don't even see, it's the battery life. Now, Apple, they actually glossed over this in the keynote. They said biggest battery life ever. And you're like, okay, what does that actually mean? I'm going to tell you, day-to-day use as a content creator on my 16 Pro, shooting video, doing photos, emails, texting, all the stuff you normally do, I got to 7% left of juice at 11 p.m. on this little guy. That is a freak of nature. This is really unheard of. It has never happened. Think about battery life. Apple says on the 16 Pro, you're going from 23 last year on the 15 Pro to 27 hours now. And then on the 16 Pro Max, you're going from 29 hours to 33 hours. So how does this factor in? Well, you have the A18 Pro chip. You have a new design, the frame, the chassis, graphite materials used to optimize cooling and performance, and a bigger battery itself. So all of those together have given this the best battery you've ever had. And again, Apple didn't focus on it, and it's the most important thing on this phone. I also think about, when I go to Disneyland and I'm shooting video and photos all day, no phone is going to make it through a day there, but I can only imagine what a 16 Pro Max can do. For all you fans out there that love this design, I think it's going to blow you away. But for me, I mean, there's no way I'm going to put another 6.9 inches in my pocket. Let's just crank out some information about what's inside here. Obviously, we have the A18 Pro. Apple says it performs 15% faster, improvement in graphics performance. Let's be real. The way I use this and the way I feel it, I don't feel any difference. But the good thing is it performs exactly the way that you'd expect it to. All right, let's talk cameras here. And yes, an upgraded camera, whether it's big or small, happens every year with the iPhone. But we're going to talk about what we have here. 16 Pro, 16 Pro Max, the same exact camera system. So we're talking about a 48 megapixel main camera. This is their Fusion camera that also goes up to a 2x zoom. All right, then you have the 48 megapixel ultra wide camera. First time on these phones, this is going to offer a lot more versatility with shot composition. As a content creator, yes, I do. Anytime the camera gets better, I like that. And then also for the first time on the 16 Pro, you get the 5x optical. It's a 12 megapixel camera. This is with that tetraprism lens that used to be only on the 15 Pro Max. It is now on both phones. So you're getting the same exact camera on both phones. That's a good Apple. And yes, I've seen all your comments. This phone is not worth upgrading for. It's just looks the same. The camera's a little better. Yes, that is true, but let's not sleep on this, because if you are someone, and people, change what they like to do. If you're someone who just remotely wants to even get into content creation just a tiny bit, you're gonna have to rethink that position, and it all starts with their new feature for this phone, camera control. This little button right here, this is probably the most complex button Apple has ever made. It is a physical button that you can actually push in. It also has a touch surface to allow you to slide back and forth. And it also has haptics, where if you give like this half press that you're gonna have to get used to, it also offers different functionality. This is all tied to camera control. It allows me to zoom into an image, just basically use our phone like a camera now. I can do a little soft double tap. It takes me to some of the different things like changing the depth of field, changing the tone, changing the exposure. This is all here. I will say my brain has started to have to get used to the idea of like quick jumping to the camera app, but it makes it a lot easier. Whether you use this or not on the regular, that's gonna come down to you. But what I think is really exciting is that they're opening up this API to a lot of other third-party companies like Highlights Kino, Snapchat is gonna be able to do different filters on it, or also something like Blackmagic, where not only could you use this for the zoom, but think about applying different LUTs real time on your pro level video. This is just scratching the surface of what is capable, not only with what Apple is showing us, but with what third-party apps can do. I already said this is a more complex button than we have ever seen before, and a software update that's coming later this year will also allow you for a 2-stage shutter that's gonna auto-lock the focus and the exposure. Another thing that this button can do is Apple's visual intelligence. That is expected to come later this year. This is a feature they showed off, but we have not been able to try it out yet, where you can take pictures of things, get information, a poster maybe of an event, can then put that calendar information on your phone for you. This is called Apple's visual intelligence, but let's be real, we've seen this with Google Lens. Another new camera trick that Apple hasn't talked about, this is actually in iOS 18 that is rolled out now that you can actually do. If you go into the video recording app, you'll see on the left bottom corner, once you press record, there is a pause button. And I know this shouldn't be game changing, but again, sometimes we get this stuff later. You can actually pause your video recording, then maybe change the different camera you want to use, whether it's ultra wide or you want to zoom in, take another shot. Think of this as Apple Talk. T-O-K, you get what I'm saying? That is a new feature that the camera has thanks to iOS 18, and it works on all phones that support iOS 18, so not just the 16 Pro, other phones as well. You never know what you're gonna see at the park. What an amazing day, so nice. Another creative feature that I haven't really started leaning into yet though is Photographic Styles, and this is basically like having color grading software on your phone. Think about it, you have these different styles. I know a lot of you are fancy on the IG. I just kind of like post my normal photos and throw them up there. I haven't gone there yet, but I know a lot of you like the styles. I know you like to have that that feeling, and think of this as like having Adobe Lightroom without paying for it, or Visco, and just playing with these styles directly on your phone. It's non-destructive, so you can change them at any time. You can even go into, once you've selected a photographic style, use this little kind of palette control to change between the tone or the shadows. It's really nice, and I think a lot of creative people are gonna love having this directly on their phone. I'm just not there yet. So I know right now some of you are watching and saying, Brian, these features don't really apply to me, all this creative stuff. Okay, fine. I'm just delivering what's new, but I'm gonna tell you the feature that speaks the most to me, 4K, 120 frames per second in Dolby Vision. All right, so I am in a studio in Los Angeles because we really want to test out the new 4K 120 frames per second Dolby Vision on the 16 Pro and the 16 Pro Max. You know, one of the cool things is once you record video natively on the actual phone, you can use the player to actually change the speed, see what it looks like in 120, in 60 frames per second, 30 and 24, really get as cinematic in that, you know, that gratuitous slow-mo that you all love. So before we do that, I guess I do need one thing. Yeah. All right, now we're talking. So enjoy. You know, I didn't know exactly what to expect here, but the footage, it speaks for itself. Look how crispy and clean. This came directly from the iPhone 16 Pro camera. We didn't shoot it in ProRes, no log here. We shot directly from the camera app as if you just picked it up to try it with your friends. Even look at this comparison. Side by side, we have the Sony FX3 in 120 frames per second, and the iPhone 16 Pro Max in 4K 120 frames per second. What's the big difference that you see here? We're doing this in a darker environment, and it captures every little water droplet in detail. It is just so damn impressive. This has easily made this a more versatile camera. Once you see the proof is in the pudding and you do it for yourself, it is amazing. Myself, my cameraman, John Kim, we were just amazed by what this can do. Now, I take a step back here, right? Let's zoom out. Is my mom going to be shooting in 4K 120 frames per second? Probably not, Mom, but you know what? I absolutely am. If you're getting overwhelmed with all this stuff, look, I still have more features to show you because there's some amazing things happening in this phone, and this comes to spatial audio recording and real-time, the new audio mix feature here on the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. So this phone has 4 microphones. This is the first time they're using new studio quality mics. So these are brand new microphones for this model. You'll have them in 4 different locations, 2 here, 1 here, and 1 up here. And this allows you to do some really magical stuff. Let's just go check it out. All right, so we are here at Earth Cafe. I think this is a perfect example to show off the new spatial audio recording and the audio mix feature. So what we're gonna do here is, yes, you're hearing this environment, but let's take a moment and let's switch over to in frame. Now this is gonna focus on me, the person, the characters that are in frame, and eliminate some of the outside sound. That's cool, all right? Now let's try studio. This is gonna be a mix that emulates as much as possible you being inside of a studio. So this should sound like the most isolated sound of the group. And then let's try the last mode, cinematic. And this is where it's gonna bring all the audio to the center channels, surrounding, and myself. So this is a different way, especially for content creators. I don't know how many casual users are gonna be using this, but for someone who likes to play around and really be able to record stuff on the spot, like food bloggers, you know who you are, this could be a killer feature. All right, so we're on a plane right now, and I just wanted to test out how the actual new 4 studio quality mics work here. This phone records spatial audio, and then we're gonna play with the different mixes to see what it looks like in frame, see what how you can tweak it in the studio. So let's just see what this sounds like, play it a few times, and show you what the difference is. But this is all directly from the phone, using the mics and nothing else. So those are 2 real-world examples that we wanted to give you. Earth Cafe, busy and loud, and yeah, even on a plane. Another audio feature that's coming, that's later this year, but not here yet. You can sing over existing recordings in the Voice Memos app, and this is gonna allow you to separate the tracks. This is just handy for musicians on the fly. You got a great song idea, you wanna record it, you can do this in the Voice Memos app. Maybe that means it's time to work on another music video? You think I got something up here? Oh, I definitely got something up here, right? This is clearly a phone catered towards the content creator. But what if that's not you, right? The first 2 things that I think about easily, the battery life is, oh, I hate saying it, but yes, game changer for how I do things. And everyone who complains about battery, these new phones, I think you're gonna love that. And then also, look, camera improvements do make a difference. So for the general consumer who uses their phone in pretty much a normal way, those are the 2 things that will stand out that might make you upgrade. But I think we have to talk about what's the most disappointing thing to me with this phone and this current state of where we're at with the OS and the iPhone. It's Apple Intelligence. So iOS 18 is here now. It doesn't have any of the Apple Intelligence features. We're gonna really have to wait till October for iOS 18.1 to get some of those Apple Intelligence features. So, right, the new Siri that has that new glow on the screen when you activate it, the ability for you to maybe stumble on your words and correct yourself for it to see that. You've got the writing tools that allow you to, edit or maybe create a different tone for an email. I didn't find myself using those that much. You also have Apple's cleanup tool. This is basically Apple's version of Google's Magic Eraser, where you can remove people or objects in the background of your photos. And then another thing, summaries. This summarizes some of the emails you get or your notifications. Those are a few of the bigger Apple Intelligence features coming in October. But then the big ones, you're talking about Genmojis to create, fun emojis on the fly that you come up with in your crazy mind, or you have Image Playground and even Chat GPT integration. All of that will be released sometime in a beta form by the end of the year, even visual intelligence later on. So Apple Intelligence has not been a complete software rollout with the new iPhones. Sure, it's coming, but to me, if I was going to recommend anyone to really upgrade today, it would have been if Apple Intelligence was fully baked, the new phones were ready to roll to give you that entire new experience where we're talking about the biggest thing, personalization, being able to integrate all the services and information that is in here, that's pretty much kind of plugged in here, and be able to call it up. That's really where this thing can become more powerful than it ever has if it delivers by what Apple's showing us. So for those of you who are saying, these new creative features may not be that big of a deal for me, I'm telling you that also, if you're really leaning into Apple Intelligence, you're gonna have to wait till it's fully baked, and I'd recommend it once it's out of beta and ready to roll, and that looks like sometime probably next year. And then next year, there's another phone. So if you wanna know who do I recommend to actually make an upgrade right now, I would say if you're on a 12 Pro or earlier, just because I know your battery is pretty crappy, I think this is a great time to upgrade. Whether it's the 16 Pro models or the regular 16 models, you're in a good spot to upgrade. 13 Pro, I'm kind of like, because the camera on there is really sensational. And again, 14 Pro, I'm telling you, hold off unless you're someone that person who just like can't help yourself. And 15 Pros, hold up, right? You can wait another year. So if you're someone who upgrades every year or you just have a lot of money, you're gonna always upgrade every iPhone. But my cutoff point right now, even Apple compared it in their keynote, 12 Pro and earlier, I think this would be a phenomenal upgrade. And beyond that, it kind of comes down to personal preference. So as a creator, I love what they're doing for this phone, but when I zoom out and think of the general consumer, it's not as clear cut, and it's gonna be something that you're gonna have to decide. Solid Apple, great phone, incremental phone, and yeah, Desert Titanium, it's kind of gold.